Okay, it's 12 o'clock. Let's call the infrastructure committee meeting to order. Roll call, Liz Melissa.
Steve Brenner.
Here.
John Woodward.
Here.
Fred Mogul.
Here.
Jen Reimer.
Here.
And Bill James.
Here.
Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. Please state your name and address if you'd like to address the committee. Is there any public comment?
Steve, I was here just for number 8. Do I need to?
State your name and your address.
Okay,
Sorry.
sorry. Colleen Paulson, 518
Go ahead.
And I think it's all covered here. Jim covered everything. I have filed all the paperwork. I was given a notice that I needed to do, and rightly so. The payment was pretty bad. So I got it done, and they said they had just stopped the 50/50 reciprocal program and you would never reinstate it. Well, lo and behold, when I got this, and this was, I guess, completed 6 months ago, it said that you now have this again. So I'm here just hoping you would consider my offer. I got a really good price to get the payment done, of $1,600, so I was here just to see if you would consider a reimbursement that I made the improvements 6 months ago. And everything else I think you read down here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There was a window between when.
Oh, wait, let's just discuss it when we're done there. Sorry, I don't want to go out over it. Any other public comment? No. Bueller? All right, hearing none, moving on. Zoning and codes report.
The report's pretty self-explanatory unless anybody has any questions. I did want to give an update on 2 commercial properties that I know are of interest to the committee and council. Update on the Berkshire Mall, and this is pretty much verbatim what I sent out for the Economic Development Committee meeting that was canceled. A status conference hearing was held before Judge Feudeman on Tuesday, April 8th regarding all outstanding code violations. Mall ownership and mall management agreed to the following deadlines set by Judge Feudeman. All underground stormwater lines that have not been televised will be jetted and televised by April 18th. Borough staff and consultants must be on site for all televising and will be notified if the televising is not able to be completed. Televising and jetting were started on April 14th. It's my understanding they finished, and McCarthy's office was on site for all of that. The mall's engineer has agreed to have his completed report regarding the underground stormwater lines to McCarthy's office no later than April 23rd. The roof and facade of the Bonton must be repaired, replaced by May 15th. A building permit application and contract for the work has been submitted, and Kraft's office, I believe, is issuing that today.
It's issued, it's here, yep.
And has already notified the mall that they can start the work. The repairs recommended by the mall's engineer for the center court or food court interior wall must be completed by May 15th. The mall's engineer met with Kraft's office on April 14th to inspect the wall. The mall's engineer stated that there are areas where the crack runs through the block that makes up the wall, and the block itself will need to be replaced. Other areas with the crack running only through the grouting may be regrouted, and the mall was notified that they need to obtain a permit to make those repairs. Both Chris's office and Alexis Roth, the attorney for the mall, have been sending weekly updates to Judge Feudeman as she requested at the last hearing, and the next hearing is scheduled for May 29th. There was also a hearing before Judge Taylor on April 10th regarding the non-traffic citations that were filed against the owner for non-compliance. The attorney for the mall had filed a motion to dismiss, stating that she did not believe that Judge Taylor's office had jurisdiction to hear the case. He disagreed, explained the process of non-traffic versus injunctive relief being 2 totally separate tracks, and agreed to continue the hearing until June 4th, pending the outcome of the next Court of Common Pleas hearing. An update on the Inn at Reading. A copy of the payment demand letter that was sent by email and certified mail to Mike Shervonic and Keith Mooney on April 11th was provided to the Economic Development Committee. All invoices and supporting documentation justifying the outstanding charges of now roughly $28,000 were provided to Mike and Keith as well. As of today, I've not received a response from either one of them. I do have a reminder on my calendar for next Monday is the deadline for him to pay those invoices. I also provided language coming out of the municipality's planning code that regulates the time frame for which a developer can dispute such charges, which is no later than 100 days after the date of transmittal of a bill for the service. The first time Chris, Jim, or I became aware that Mike was disputing any of the invoices he's received was on April 8th, and all of the invoices from December 23rd through December 2024 were sent more than 100 days before Mike raised an objection. So our position would be that he has lost his right to arbitrate or question those invoices. So I will provide an update next week if and when I receive payment, but so far nothing. And this was a standalone agenda item, but 1725 Dauphin Avenue, which was the stormwater property, I am very happy to say is now finally completed. The owner has paid a balance of, it was about $6,500 to recoup borough costs to get that property taken care of. So Kraft's happy, McCarthy's happy, borough's happy, it is officially resolved.
Amen.
2 years later.
The person downstream is happy as well.
Should be.
Amen. Okay. Fourth and only pump station. I don't see any changes on it from the previous month.
No.
Western Berks Water Authority.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
I'm representing Chris, well, I should represent the board. First of all, I want to tell Michelle, there's going to be a $19,000 credit on next water bill. We unfortunately unloaded the new rates for the December usage, which were reflected on a January bill. And so you're going to get a credit for about $19,000.
Yay.
That'll be reflected on next month's bill.
Okay, I'll let Phyllis
Okay.
know.
The plant seems to be running well right now. We're going to Penvest hopefully in August for our project, and Lord knows what's going to happen there. And hopefully we will start the project in late '25. So as you know, it's about $25–30 million, and it's going to be quite a doing. So that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Do you have any questions? All right. Hearing none.
Good.
Lieutenant,
I want to mention, I finally heard from the solicitor for Wawa about our request to meet to talk about the main under the bridge at Tullamore Creek. So they have agreed, or Wawa has agreed to meet to discuss this, so I'm setting up a meeting with borough staff and Wawa representatives to see if we can reach any understanding on that. So there is some progress on it.
Okay.
Could you let somebody from Western Berks know perhaps they should be at the meeting? Or don't you think that's necessary?
Well, I thought Western Berks was trying to stay out of it, but.
Well, we are, but in case, only depends what would happen at the meeting. You two could decide, hey, oh no, it's Western Berks' responsibility, which we don't think it is. But,
Well, I'll leave it to the committee.
it's up to you, I don't care. If you don't wanna do it, that's
I
fine.
would move forward with the meeting if you can get them, someone there, fine. If not, it's fine again.
All right, I'll reach out.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sanitary sewer. See here, any changes from last month on that one? It's the same. Permits for return. Projects out to bid. I see that. And there's
Steve,
no-
I do have one other thing I'd like to interject or two quickly, is, at budget time, we allocated $50,000 to stormwater televising and repair, and we did have a contractor come in and televise some storm sewer lines. And I don't know if this needs for committee approval or not, but we got an invoice for $11,550.
I said my preference was to have it approved, but since it was too late to make the agenda for this meeting, to either add it to the finance agenda or I can add it to my manager's report for council.
Add to the finance agenda, that's fine. wanted to say about
Yeah,
that?
that's it.
Well, that wasn't that exciting.
No, well,
Alright.
that's good that it's not exciting.
No, I was waiting for you to throw the other part of the hammer down.
No. That's upcoming.
Nothing new for the Winwood pump station upgrades? No, hearing none, okay. Streets. Besides the 518 Ole, do we have any other discussion we have to have here?
No, contract's been awarded, we'll have a pre-construction meeting at some point. I would imagine work would start in a month or two.
Okay. And that reward came in on budget, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
You surprised I asked that question?
And was the 50/50 program fully subscribed? I mean, did everybody take advantage of it, or were there funds available?
The only thing I have to add with 50/50 is as of today, we are up to 44 applicants, which is pretty strong. So I would imagine that the deadline's the end of the month, so there's another week yet. I'd say we'll be close to 50 applicants, which will be the most we've ever had. It may create a budget issue slightly, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Necessary evils. Okay. And then you want to now talk about the 518 Ole, Jim?
We can, yeah. 518 Ole got a notice from Craft Code about their sidewalk, as did other residents at that time last year.
It was August.
She had the sidewalk fixed prior to us reinstating, this gets a little complicated, reinstating the 50/50 sidewalk program. So she is here asking for reimbursement because she didn't have an opportunity to take advantage of the 50/50 and other people did.
She basically did the right thing and went out and got a
Yes.
permit right away to get the work done.
And has the work been looked at?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
The
fine.
various parts of the project, he came out to make sure it was, I don't know, leveled correctly,
Did
he
some
was
root,
there.
did some
Yeah.
root
We were
work.
really trying,
Yeah.
he was trying not to hear from me anymore. But he did come out promptly every time along the, I had gotten the notice in August and it was finished by September.
And the work quality, so the work quality.
Yes,
is up to
no,
the
there's no
50/50
question there.
repairs.
So, what if they had been under our contract bid? What would that have cost?
I'd have to do the
There were
math.
3 squares.
Yeah, I do recall our cost from the contractor last year was $22 a square foot, but that was our cost, of which we reimbursed the homeowner half of that. But I have not done the math.
And it's half of that, just for the public knowledge, half of that up to
$1,000.
Right.
And she's asking for 800, so we haven't met that criteria.
And we've seen the receipt for $1,600, I assume.
Yes,
Get that?
I think you sent that to me.
I sent that to
Yeah,
you.
that's where we
I sent
came up with the
canceled
800.
check.
Yeah, it was a canceled check to a concrete contract.
The man the foreman had a little trouble conversing in English. I had to have an interpreter there. So I did ask him for, I'm trying to sound like a lawyer. I did ask him for another receipt, but I don't think he understood what I meant, because I talked to him in person, on the phone.
So we have something to prove out the cost of the project.
We have a canceled check for $1,600.
Yes,
So it seems, me doing the quick math, that her price was less than our price.
Could be, we pay prevailing wage when we do ours.
Right. Okay.
Did she have hers fixed before the notice went out?
She received the notice in August and effectively pulled a permit immediately to
Immediately.
fix it. It wasn't until, I think, September, if not the October infrastructure meeting, we talked about doing a special round of the 50/50 program to allow homeowners that got the notice to take advantage of it. So her work was done and then some by the time we even started talking about that.
And we've told her that the 50/50 program was over.
yes, when I came in to file the paperwork, they said, oh, you would never offer that again. And I said, well, I think it had just ended like a few months before I did it, but maybe I should have waited to do the
Right.
improvements. Maybe I jumped the gun and I wanted it done right away.
I don't like to penalize penalize people who do the right thing.
I wish other residents would react as quickly as you did.
I did it like last night, but I think people were tired of seeing me here.
I had to
They
hash
made
out,
me
I
file.
have to hash out all the topics. I'll make a recommendation that the borough reimburse 580.
And you just repaired the
I'll second
squares
that.
that needed to be repaired, not additional.
Yeah, they took out a tree.
And by the way, that was another costly thing. We had a huge oak tree, and again, Jim is probably tired of seeing me, that the roots actually made the basement flood twice, and so that was what happened to the pavement. The roots upended it. And it was, I just prayed for a while that nobody would fall on it, because it was about that far out. So.
I think because she asked, we were told that there wasn't happening. A month or two later, it happened. I'll make the recommendation to go ahead and reimburse the $800 or 50% of the bill up to $1,000 to 518 only.
And I'll renew my second.
Okay, we have a motion to second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thanks for doing the right thing. Okay, anything else under streets
Maybe going forward.
besides Dolphin Avenue? I know we have Dolphin Avenue yet.
Steve,
Yeah,
what
Dolph.
Maybe going forward, we gotta, because didn't we get into this situation once before that we don't know whether this program is gonna be offered next year, other than just say, we're not gonna offer this next year, you know?
Yeah, we need to be clear as governance.
Yeah,
Are
it may,
we
may do it, we may
Well,
not.
we did,
Right,
we
that
did
comes
say,
up to
we did
budget.
say we weren't gonna do it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think we
We
need,
said that.
I know, then, but I just think we
So how
need
much
to,
clearer you can be than that?
well, then we just changed our minds then, 'cause
Correct.
that's what we did, okay, fine.
We just changed our minds, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Flip flop.
Okay,
So, the next item D is Dolphin Avenue. We spoke about this maybe 6 months ago. It's proposed street work for not this summer, but for next summer, 2026. And Greg and I and Greg from the tree department and Jim McCarthy have all spent a little bit of time looking at the situation, and it's going to be, like I said before, a disruptive project out there compared to most street projects. The 12, 13, and 1400 blocks, if you read through that briefly, all those homes were built in the 20s, 100 years ago. The concrete is of the same vintage, it's 100 years old, and all the curbing on the 12 and 1300 blocks, all of it needs to be replaced, and the south side of the 1400 block. We had a contractor come out who can slip form that curbing. He's saying it's going to be roughly $90 a foot. Some of those properties have 50 feet of frontage. That would be around $4,500 in curb work. Some of those properties are large, would be 175 feet of frontage. So you're looking at $15,750 roughly for this curb. I want to get a letter out sometime in the next couple months explaining some of this in general terms, just to give people a heads up ahead of time. I don't think a year's long enough. In addition to the curb work, in those 3 blocks, there's 86 trees, linden trees. And it's a very narrow planting strip. It's a different planting strip than most streets. I don't know why it was so narrow, it was designed that way. Of those 86, 26 we identified that should be removed, either due to their existing health, that we'd have to cut too much root to do the curb correctly, that they'd probably die shortly thereafter. So, can we bring up some of those pictures? No, there was,
It's after the letter.
Oh, it's in the docs.
all right, so this is kind of typical out there. Get to my notes here. So to grind roots and try to salvage that tree would be unrealistic. So that would be one that would have to come down. duplicate picture there, basically. When they do the slip forming, they're gonna have a top of curb elevation, and it's not gonna match situations like this. We didn't count how many there were, but I'd say half the properties have a piece of concrete between their sidewalk and the curb, that, is really on them, so that would have to be redone. We'd have to make a decision either by the borough or by the homeowner to make sure those elevations will match, at the end. And I'll get to this one, last.
What block is that?
That's the 1600 block. So I'd like to get a letter out that would explain, hey, in 2026, we're gonna be repaving the road. Keep it very generic, that there'll be a substantial amount of curb replacement. Over this summer and winter, you're gonna see a lot of trees removed in preparation for this street work. Just to give a heads up, it's a tough one. Scroll down one more, and we'll get to 1600 block. Because that's what it looks like now, and it's gonna look different. With 26 of 86 trees coming down in those 3 blocks. So I'm not looking for anything in particular.
Are the trees bad, or the trees have to be removed because of the curve?
They could be removed for one of 3 reasons. They have health issues now. We're gonna be, if we have, some are eating the curbing, and if we have to grind a lot of root off, I'd hate to grind the roots, 2 years later the tree dies, and you have to remove it anyway.
Where it grows back and buckles of concrete you just fixed.
Right. So this was just, the 1500 block is different vintage curbing. There won't be a lot of issues there. There might be 2 or 3 houses with 20 feet of curb that need to be replaced, more typical.
Is that, could you go back a picture?
And then we'll talk about the 1600 block there.
This one or the one before this?
Is that the sloped curbing you're?
This is a different vintage also. This is the rolled curb as opposed to the vertical curb. At some point, this street was overlaid, and they overlaid the blacktop into the rolled curbing, which is not good. Jim McCarthy and I went out and looked at it, spoke about it, and we have 2 options: make everybody replace that curb and make it vertical curb, which would be very expensive, or we could basically mill off that blacktop and put it back as is, which is what we think is the best avenue. There'll be some curb replacement, but not a lot.
So that brings up a question. So am I to understand that we have 3 types of curbing? We have our traditional
Vertical
curbing,
curb.
okay, then we have like in the hills and so forth, the,
Rolled, there's really only 2 types, rolled curb and vertical curb.
okay, and then.
This is rolled curb.
Okay. What is the most effective / inexpensive way to proceed with this? Should we look at the rolled curb versus?
No, vertical curb is far, especially with trees, is far superior. That rolled curb only goes underground maybe 6-8 inches. Vertical curb goes down 24. It's better for the street, better for the longevity of the curb if it's vertical curb. Yeah.
So remind me again, how do we go about, if we're gonna do rolled curb here with the digging out, and on the other blocks, we're gonna do the vertical curb.
Right.
When we get the quote, we don't divide it by the total number of houses, we divide it by the block.
No, it's measured, the curb is measured, and each homeowner is responsible for whatever their footage is, whatever their frontage is,
Okay.
for the dollar cost. And just for conversations reasons, when we were talking to a contractor out here, I think he was Lidditz, I think it was, they go through the same problems we do apparently, and they do not bill the homeowner for curb, even though the curb is owned by the property owner, that they have a small tax, a curb tax, so when they do roads like this, the individual homeowner isn't billed, the community as a whole pays for that curb replacement. Just throwing that out there.
Say that again?
They have a tax, what they call a curb tax apparently. And they build a kitty, so when they do street work and have to replace the curb, they don't send a bill to the property owner. This curb tax pays for the curb
So the
replacement.
residents pay that year in, year out?
I think so. I
Like
don't know all the
street tax?
details, but that's how he took it, phrased it.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Any idea what that costs?
Well, the curb costs
The
remain the
millage
same.
tax.
It's just how much tax you want to accumulate for curbing.
Can you look into that more?
Sure.
Just something maybe we can kick around for future.
Right.
The only problem I got with that is we just replaced somebody's, I don't even know what
Right.
streets, curbs, and now we're adding a tax on top of it. Now, you know,
Yeah.
at some point you're gonna have to bite off more than you can chew, but I would feel bad for the people. Maybe we could make a rule, if you've had your curb done in the last 3 years, you don't have to pay the tax for a couple of years or something along those lines, but.
Yeah. But I just wanted to make the committee aware that this project for 2026 is not normal. It's.
Let me just ask you this, just ask you this question, if it's that significant of a job, does it make any sense to change it out, to make it 27, to give them 2 years' notice? Because
We
it
could.
could be a
There's enough
significant,
roads that
it
we
could
could-
be a significant
We could.
bailiwick for them to pay.
Typically, what would happen is, if this was a normal year, I would go out sometime this fall, measure curb that needs to be replaced. I would send them a letter this summer saying, hey, we're gonna pave your road next year. There's some curb that needs to be replaced. Look for a letter from me sometime this fall with more detail. Then I'd go out and measure. They would get a letter that says, you have 20 feet of curb that's gonna need to be replaced. We're gonna put it in our bid package. And then you'll get another letter from me saying, yes, I'd like the borough to do it at our bid price, or we give them the option to do it themselves.
Haven't
Which
we
is-
done a payment plan? in the
We
past?
have in the past,
Do you remember what the
I-
term was?
I asked
How long?
Phyllis about that, and she said whatever we came up with was so cumbersome that nobody used it. We need a simplified payment plan, you know, but we have offered that in the past, yeah.
I know, because I think there was some kind
Yeah,
of a
yeah.
policy.
21 or 22, because
Yeah.
it went through finance.
It was something really,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Tough.
She said nobody even did it because it was too cumbersome. Yeah. So they would get that letter, they'd let me know, we're gonna do it ourselves, or no, the borough should do it for us. And then, the project would happen, and, shortly after the project's done, they get an invoice.
well, listen, driving that road last week, knowing this was coming, they need it. I mean, it needs to be done. It just seems like this is gonna be just a more expensive job than most of the places.
Exactly.
And the question becomes, do we just send them a letter and see what the blowback is, or do we wanna send them a letter and say, we'll do it in 2027 instead of 2026, just to give you another year to get ready to go, but it's gonna happen. I don't
That'd
know.
be fine, that's fine, it would give us more time to remove trees too, it's 26 trees is a lot of
Just gonna bring
trees.
that up, why don't we move, take the trees out next year
We're gonna take some down this year.
and do,
But it'll be over
and then
time.
do the road following, and the curbing.
Right, so we're proposing, we're gonna continue, but in the 2027 calendar year. People will still get a letter now, giving them 2 years of notice, but it's still gonna say, hey, you're gonna see trees come down over the next year and a half.
Is there any stomach
and
is there any stomach for a payment plan after it's completed with an upfront cost determination so that it can be paid off over a year or two?
I think that should be in the letter, that in the end, we will come up with a simplified payment plan. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to recall if we give them 2 years or 3 years, I don't remember. It was a couple of years, I thought. but-
See, there were so many different interest
Yeah.
scenarios, and
It was a nightmare.
Yeah,
We
we
just
were,
gotta come up with some interest rate that's equivalent to what we're getting in the Pliget account and go from there.
And I don't even know budget-wise, I haven't even broached this yet, if maybe this is too much to bite off in a year, then it would be above our typical budgeted street work. I don't know. Have to get with Nick or Jim about that to see
Well,
what,
if we determine that
And
could
we split it
affect
into
what
2
we-
years.
That would, yeah, we could split it into 2 years and do the easier part 1 year and the more extensive part the other. But,
trying to get this done before I leave, so Greg doesn't have this nightmare on his plate.
that block in particular, I don't think has too many trees that need to be fenced.
No, trees are not a big
They all
issue.
either fell down already or been ripped down.
1,600.
Yeah, but,
That one does.
yeah.
I don't think people are gonna argue, because what, those are the dirty trees, right?
They
Those
are.
things are, I don't think the neighbors are gonna
Well, some,
complain up
it's
there.
it's weird, yeah, every house is different, some people love the
Well, there'll
trees,
be
some
people
people
screaming
hate
because of
the
the
trees.
shade, their heating bills
Yep.
might go up.
Yeah, but
You
the,
just hear that.
those are dirty trees though, wow.
And what we would replace them with,
We haven't really broached that yet. I don't know if we,
we put some more
It would-
trees out to feed the deer.
So does this trigger, if you were to sell your property between now and the time it happens, if you want to sell your house, do you have to disclose that to the buyer?
that's happened already, that's happened multiple times where the new owner did not know that they had to pay for curb, that's happened, where they did not, the current owner did not disclose it to the new owner.
You
That's happened.
should, but it's not something that's gonna come up
Whether you
as part of this.
should or have to are two different things.
Yeah.
Depends on our agreement statement.
I think that disclosure statement too, you'll see, disclosure statement has to have something there about that.
Well, it has, the standard disclosure statement says something about assessments, and, you know, the letter is not an assessment. So that's where it gets into gray area.
I agree.
Well, what do we think? Do we think about ripping trees down this year and punting it to 26, 27, just to give them a little extra time to come up with some, in some cases, could be a significant amount of money?
And if that's the case, we could take the time now to get the quantities, the distances for each property, and let them know, this is your footage. It's gonna, we're not asking you right now, but we're gonna be
In the future.
in the future, this is.
Yeah, the more information we can give them, the better, so.
Yeah, they can start saving if they know
Right.
Yep.
approximately what they're looking at.
Make sure you don't guarantee them the price.
Right, no, I will not mention
Yeah,
anything
it'd
about
be based
price.
on today's prices.
Right, and the quantities may vary, the situation 2 years from now could be, the curb situation on the 1600 block could change by then, you know.
That's true.
Okay, so what's the committee think? Try to put it off, give them an extra year?
Yes.
Yes. I'll make that motion if we need one.
You don't.
No, okay.
Well, let's get those letters out sooner the better. Okay. Anything else on Dolphin Avenue?
You know.
Water? We got the,
We opened bids
Yep.
for the water work. I guess the dollar amount isn't listed there. I know you're not gonna like this one, Steve, here we go. The low bidder, KBC Construction, $162,558. The dollars budgeted were $140,000, so we're 22,000 over budget.
Did you get anyone?
okay,
Yeah.
well, they wanna go ahead and make that motion to accept it?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. 22K, huh?
Yeah.
Could be worse.
And the streets were right on budget, right? It was like
I believe so, yeah. And we'll get to one with the Berkshire Heights Playground that was under budget.
Under budget.
Was it the playground?
I had no idea.
And then we have,
Under budget, 250.
Just a follow-up question, is there any, indication of what component was more expensive than was predicted? Was it materials, was it labor? Do we have any idea?
I don't think it's all the breakdown of the budget.
Yeah, I have not analyzed that. I can tell you the low bidder was 162, the high bidder was 388. There was a big spread of
Rabbit, they're out.
Okay. Just curious.
okay,
Um,
go ahead.
The underwater too, we'd like to, if you have, try to limit this to 15 minutes. I just wanted to bring the committee up to speed on some of the technology changes that we're using for water and sewer. It's really grown over the years, and I think it would just be good for the committee to know what's available to us and what we're using, because I think it's pretty impressive what's happening here as of late. I have two guys from our department, Dylan, who's the foreman of the water and sewer department, and Kevin, who is kind of the tech guru of that. And we used to, when I first started here, when we read water meters, we would have 2 or 3 guys walk around with books, paper books, knock on the door, hope somebody was home, get into the house, read the water meter. Took a month to do. Then the technology came along where you could run a wire from the meter to a tab outside the home and use a little electronic gun that would save the information. That was great. People didn't have to be home. You could read the meter without them being home. Now we can just drive by and one guy can read all our meters, 2,400 meters in a day. That's how much it's changed in the last 25 years. But they're going to come up and show you some stuff, and we'll go through a few of these. And I'd like to thank Greg for this too, because I would have never done this, but Greg thought it would be a great idea to let you guys know, what we're doing. And now that we've started, I'm like, yeah, it is a good idea. Okay.
Before you get started, don't you think a guru should have a special hat or something?
I'm the official
He's a
I'm talking guru hat.
Yeah. We used to map with AutoCAD, and we still use the AutoCAD. I don't know if can you bring those back there. Yeah. Started like the mid-90s. We had interns come in and use paper maps that we had and go out and field verify. Can you zoom in at all, or I don't know how? These are just screenshots. This isn't the actual program. It's tough to see, but so all of our sewer lines, sanitary sewer, the water, the storm sewer, all mapped, and this was very helpful. Took 4 or 5 years to get it to a point. But if we ever had to clean sewers, we could print out a map and have manhole numbers, and knew every manhole had a number. Every hydrant, when we flushed hydrants, had a number, so you could. It was good technology at the time. If you had a water main break, you could see where the valves were, what valves you had to shut, what valves you had to open. But you can't attach any data to it. It's just there's a fire hydrant, there's a manhole. You couldn't do anything more than look at it, although it's still very helpful. And even this is, from what I can gather from talking to some neighboring municipalities, we were ahead of the curve when we did this. And most people would love to have just this ability, but things have changed since then. So now we'll move on to SharePoint. We always had these paper drawings, and if we needed to reference a paper drawing, have to go into a big flat file, pull it out. Some of them were very old, you damaged these old drawings. And this SharePoint, this was early 2000s. We scanned, over the course of a couple years, all of these big drawings, anything from land development plans to construction drawings, things like that. So one that we still use, and you'll laugh when you see this, is this house sewer index. These were original drawings, 1928, I think. And there it is. And we used to have to pull that out and try to find it. And now it's scanned, so it makes it so much easier to retrieve. So that tells us what drawings to look at. And then the next one he's going to show, this is a section of Penn Avenue that shows the sewer main. It shows where the lateral's at, what year it was connected. We don't use it often, but on occasion we'll have to look at this if we can't find something. So it's just a big step, and we can email. I can make a PDF out of that and email it to a surveyor or a contractor. Just made life a little easier. And then here's the modern day version of it. You just picked this from randomly. The shops at Wyomissing, they did their land development plan. And we can bring that up and look at that for, we have easements through that property with our water and sewer lines. They're private. If they ever call and say, we have, something's leaking behind our property, it's their private water main, but we can at least show them this, that here's the construction drawing from that project. So it's just easy retrieval. Then one of the newer items we got is the CS data. It's part of our software that we already had. It's just another feature on it where we can add data, just like the AutoCAD, but we can add data to an object, to a fire hydrant. We can say what year it is, what the flow rate is. What do you have up there? Those are all the hydrants there. Let me get to my point. So the hydrant, we're going to do the hydrant at Old Mill. We just replaced this hydrant near the swimming pool on Old Mill Road, and so when these guys go out and inspect the hydrant annually, we'll flow the hydrant, make sure it's working correctly. They can now put that information on here when they're out in the field. So if there's any question of was work done, what's the static pressure reading, all these things we can retrieve now, and even put in photographs of the installation, which comes in helpful. There they are when they put the hydrant in, you know. So sometime 30, 50 years from now, when somebody's looking, you can say, hey, you know, there's what happened. So in addition to the water, we can also do it for sewer. There was a bad sewer lateral on North Wyomissing Boulevard that we replaced. And normally we would have dug it up, replaced it, but now we have record of the year it was done. Picture of it, all these things that we can attach to it. You know, what else are we going to discuss with this? We can measure distances. We can't find, and we could do this on AutoCAD too. But if we're looking for one of these laterals, it's buried under the ground. We can, if you find a fixed point, you can measure to the next point and find it. Proves helpful, especially in the wintertime when there's snow in the planting strip and there's a blocked sewer. and you can't find a clean out, you can go to this tool, and very helpful. And you can use different backgrounds. You have aerial, like that. Yeah. Shows the direction of flow, all those things. Anything I'm missing on CS Datum before we move on there? So,
How did you locate the stuff? Like, did you click on a device and it gives you a GPS location and matches up to the software?
the original base drawing we just brought over from the AutoCAD bank. But as we find that you're always finding something new, we just keep adding as we go. They use a tablet now, but we're getting a GPS stick which is more accurate, within a couple inches or something.
And if I were to click this car icon, it'll actually automatically open this in Google Maps with, you know, and then it'll further fine tune with latitude and longitude, depending on the device you have.
So I think it's important to add here too, Jim had wanted to do GIS forever, and the original cost, I think we were ballparking, was hundreds of thousands of dollars. CS Datum is an offshoot of the permit program I've used since I was hired here in 2008. And Jim and Greg had a conversation with CS Datum roughly a year ago, and I think the total cost was $2,300.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
a lot simpler to use, I think. Yeah, from what we saw.
I believe I had a conversation with you a couple months ago about drilling down into the households so that they would be able to monitor their own water usage. So
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
Actually, that's up next. So this was, the CS Datum is mapping, putting data to different hydrants, valves, pipes, and the guys use it as kind of a work order thing.
Well, street signs go in it.
Starting to do street
We
signs,
do all the
yeah.
roads we've paved, anything we do in the borough can go in this program. So we have record of it in one spot.
Now, the historical thing that you drew up, did that include, we have all this in for on the hill section too?
Well, the only thing we have in the hills is sanitary sewer
Right.
and stormwater. We have, all those drawings have been scanned, we have them. But yeah, the same holds true for there, yeah. It's just not as much information because there's no water over there,
Right, that's true.
it's just sewer. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so now getting back to the water meters, this is real new. It's called Neptune 360. Neptune is the meters that we use. They came up with this new software a year ago, 2 years ago, and we just started using it last summer, I guess it was. I don't know that, it's above my head technology-wise, so I'll let Kevin manipulate this. But it helps a lot when we have people that have a high water bill. And they say, we didn't use that water, and we can kind of prove that they used the water with this. So was it 209 Logan we're gonna go to? Kevin, go ahead and explain what happened here.
So the actual water meter head stores 96 readings per day for 96 days as a historical value. And there's a leak indicator on it. So if someone calls in and speaks with Kim and says they have a higher bill than they expected, we can go out and actually access that data, and it looks for continuous flow and assesses it over those reading intervals to look for, if like a toilet's running and just a small flow is happening. The software will actually flag that. So this resident had a higher than normal bill. It was just him living in the home, and we went out and spoke with him, helped him, listen for toilets and diagnose the issue a little bit just off the meter. And then his water meter usage climbed all the way back down to where it should have been the whole time. But just through that meter software, it highlighted the issue and allowed him to know there was a problem, and then helped him figure out how to reduce that usage.
So we've gone through I guess, two to three different meter changeouts, so we could get to the point where we could use this. The meters with the, when you walked in, you obviously couldn't use them. With the tabs, it didn't have this technology, but now with these radio read meters, it allows this to be used, because it's all radio, RF.
That's great.
The Western Berks Water is also moving to Neptune. So this is gonna be a big advantage to us. And I'll let Dylan speak to us where we're at now and where's that going in the future.
Are you on that one, Kev? So right now we have five bits that we take water from Western Berks. They upgraded 3 of them to this software. So currently, when the next 2 are online, so before we would have to go out every day, it'd take about an hour to go all these sites and get the actual meter reads. And now with limiting to this, it cut our time down. So we come in the morning, log on, get the numbers, and we can go and get more things done through the day. So now they also have it so every pit has a zone, so we can say from the woodland pit, we can take that zone and we'll be able to see what we use through that pit and what our usage is from each home, and put that together and calculate what our lost water would be if we have a leak, or see what we're paying for and what we get back. We can see the water consumed by the residential meters and compare that to the water we just purchased from Western Berks and see how much water we're losing. You know, we read these meters every day as a leak detection device. If we see one of these Western Berks meters is all of a sudden it spikes, the usage spikes. Hey, we got a leak, and it gives us our first clue that something's wrong. And like Dylan said, it would take an hour to drive around every morning, get the meter readings, and now they can do it in a couple minutes at their desk. It's a big time saver.
To just inject a little bit of history into this.
Yeah.
At the old police department, there used to be a gauge with these circular graphs on it. And this arm.
We still have one.
Yeah. Really? You fill it up with ink, and then it was up to the dispatcher's job to keep an eye on that. And if they noticed a sudden drop, then they know that there's a leak someplace in the borough, and then we had to call out the appropriate people. But you want to talk about technology going from that to this is incredible.
And from what I can gather, pressures and temperatures.
Yeah. So now the meters also are starting to come where they have pressures. So you can see if you have a high pressure read and it's storing it. And just to go back on leak detection, we actually just purchased. They're called it's a leak detection device. So they look like little cans you put on the valves, and you can set the time for it. So where at night, say it's at 2 a.m., they connect through the nighttime and see if there's any usage, and they'll spike. If there's a spike, say take the measurement, it's overall 100 foot from valve to valve, and it says 40 foot from valve A. That has a spike, and that's where you can indicate a leak also. So this helps us with all that as well.
It saves time.
Absolutely.
Okay, and then the AccuDose. This is, we replaced the Berkshire Boulevard pump station last year. As things change, it comes with, the pumps come with this new technology that, again, has proved very helpful. You can see under the pump heading there's 2 red dots. When they turn, and the guys can watch this on their phones. If it's red, nothing's happening. The wet well is just filling with sewage. One of those red dots will turn green. That means the pump kicked on. Pump 1 so far kicked on 16 times since midnight, ran for 28 minutes. Pump 2 ran 16 times for 35 minutes. So you have it in real time what's happening. And the lower left, that wet well level, just a big concrete vault, and fills up with sewage, and when it gets to a certain height, there's a sensor in there that says better turn the pumps on, and we can watch that wet well level. The biggest thing now that I think is helpful is if we ever had a power outage there, we get a call. The old pump station could call us and say, hey, there's no power here, somebody better come out. And we always would have to send somebody out. But now with this, there's a backup generator there for power that I think we trusted enough that we don't even have to go out. We get a call that says, hey, the power's out at the Boulevard Pump Station. We can just look on here and say, okay, the generator's running, everything's good. We don't have to come out, you know. Big benefit.
And right
So
now
what
you
we
see the
just
pump
saw
running.
here, this thing's actually running right now.
Right now,
Yeah.
pump one is
Just
running.
kicked on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And at some point when we do Winwood and the Fourth and Ole pump stations, it'll be, if not this, something similar, I'm sure.
Do you have the ability to turn the pump on and off remotely?
No,
Just
no,
monitor?
just monitor.
Let you know how fast you gotta get here.
All right, and then this is the last item, just general knowledge is, you always hear us talk about the lead rule. And it's very cumbersome, and we had to contract with NTech Engineering to do our inventory for us. We had to have a full inventory by October of last year, I think it was, which we spoke about here from time to time. But this is what the inventory looks like, and I just wanted to show you this, to see how many columns and how cumbersome this thing is. So there's all the addresses. If in the documents column there, it'll show we provided NTech a lot of documentation to try to prove that a property didn't have any lead there. So the first one there, ordinance 429, this was a great ordinance. It says basically any new service line from the curb into the house has to be copied. So any house built after 1948, this was proof enough, hey, it's not lead. So it was whoever was in your shoes back in 1948 did a great job there. And then we have another.
What about the guys in 36?
And then we have a similar document from 1969 that says anything from the main to the curb stop, to the curb, has to be copper. Why they were separated by so many years, I don't know. And then just go on the mains thing there. And this is where I want to give the infrastructure committee a lot of kudos, and these are all the water mains we've replaced. I can go back to 1973, and because they were done after 73, we know that they're copper. So on any of these roads, we know they're clean on the street side. And we are, I gotta say, very unusual that we throw money at main replacement as much as we do. Thanks to this committee. West Reading, Shillington, once in a while they'll replace a water main. We do a lot, and it's proved helpful in less water main breaks, helping us with this inventory. There's a lot of positives to it. And then see if you can find that one with all the sketches that are on there.
Is PA American doing all this? Or-
Yeah, I don't know, I would imagine they're more advanced than we are. I would think so, being as large as a company, you know.
They charge enough.
Um,
They better be doing it.
But using that SharePoint software and our history, all we had to do was generate these drawings. There's probably one for every water main we've replaced. Send it to NTech, and then they entered it in our inventory as, hey, these are clean on the street side. And we started, out of 2,400 connections, we started with 640, I believe it was, of unknowns that we have to prove that they are not lead. Which was a pretty good number out of 2,400. We are down with some work that Kevin and Dylan have done, some low-hanging fruit. We're now down to, was it 300 and... No, we're down to 556 that are unknown. And at some point, it's gonna take some time and money for those to prove. We have to prove that they're not lead. And it may come to digging holes in people's front yards to get an eyeball on the service line. That's the way it appears at this point.
Do we have old ordinances from Wyomissing Hills before,
Yes,
and
nothing like this exists for them.
we don't have anything about switching over to copper, none of that exists?
Well, it's not our problem over there.
I know it's not, it's my problem.
Yeah, yeah.
No, and I mean, I can't speak to the 48 ordinance, but the 69 ordinance, the plumbing inspector that was here at the time was very particular about copper, so I think that's why the 69 one went in specifically. But we have all of the ordinances archived in an Excel spreadsheet. It's easily searchable. There's also other ordinances specific from the hills that came over that were separate but are now incorporated, and there was nothing similar to this for them.
I think that had been private water over there since the beginning of time, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
You say about our plumbing inspector being
Maybe Walt?
Davey Wall, that was an understatement. You
Yep.
made.
I was trying to get
Good man.
We're gonna get to the point that someone's gonna have an app on their phone saying your water's been running for 12 straight hours and it keeps going on.
I'm sure at some point that'll happen. I think we're close now. Yeah.
Actually, Kohler and a bunch of others, you go to Home Depot and get these things, and these sensors, and if they sense your floor is wet, it'll go off on your phone. That you're, they're about $70. We got one for our basement.
Huh.
After it flooded out last year.
Okay.
That's all.
Well done.
So how much
Anybody
water
else?
do we lose? It seems like all these efforts to make sure we're not losing water, that's good for all the residents because they're not paying more.
Right.
We don't have to mark it up as much.
Right. It was always great when what's the soda plant there? Cott Beverage.
Premium beverage.
Because Cott Beverage used so much water that it made our loss rate single digits. Right now, I think last year, we have to do it every year for a DEP report, what's your water loss? And I think we were at 14%, give or take, 2024, and that was high. It's usually down around 10 or 12. Some of that's attributed to when we fill the swimming pool, we don't bill ourselves for the water, so there's 380,000 gallons to fill the pool. The library, the borough hall, we don't account for borough-owned water in any way. But right now, for 2024, we were at 14% loss. I'd say that's very typical, if not slightly low. If you're over 20%, you have to develop some sort of action plan to deal with that. But we've always been pretty good with water loss also, I think. And replacing old meters helps. Water main breaks, old meters. If you keep fixing those things, your water loss shouldn't be high.
Okay. The 15-minute rule blew up. But good, well done. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, moving on. Cambridge Avenue Culvert Pedestrian Bridge, any news discussed there?
Nothing new.
Okay. We haven't received anything that I know of in the form of grants for the admin or police study needs, so nothing there.
No, but I have been told our our LSA statewide application is in requesting $500,000, and I've been told that we're in a strong position not to expect to receive the full amount, but probably close to 750,000.
Good.
That's not announced till September though.
I'll celebrate in September.
Same.
Public Works Garage, the only thing that's new on there is to discuss the 2025, when is the 2025, when is the May Infrastructure Committee meeting, is that the
One second.
13th?
I actually do have an update on the status of reimbursement of the grant funding. Everything's being tied up over several 3-inch steel angles that were apparently in some capacity produced in Canada, which does not meet the steel cert requirements. Bolton kind of did us a solid and basically agreed to replace them all at no cost to us. Since ultimately it was on Bolton, they were the installer for that. So the likelihood is they're gonna have to come in, take all those angles out and put them in with angles that are certified, produced, manufactured in the United States, so they're eligible for reimbursement. So once that is taken care of, we should be in a good position for reimbursement. The May meeting is on the 19th.
We can do that, but I can tell you right now, I will not be here.
Do you wanna wait until June?
45 minutes. Doesn't matter to me.
I mean, do you wanna, have you seen it?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the rest of the committee have a preference?
Run it in May, do it in May.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll be getting 3.5 years worth of junk out of my kids' college. Day after graduation, driving home, I don't think I'll make it by noon. Okay. You said you had some update on the.
No, I gave the update.
Stonehouse project. We had some stormwater runoff issues.
Yeah, Nick and I were out there, and Greg, looking at punch list items. And one of them is there's a lot of washouts. The terrain has changed. And it's gonna be tough to get the grass to establish correctly unless we address some stormwater issues. We don't have a price yet. We're waiting for CMS, the contractor. It would be a change order to add an inlet near the tennis courts that would take a lot of this water away, and a little bit of berming around the parking lot area. But we don't have a dollar figure.
So you wanna wait until finance? Added to the finance agenda?
Sure.
Okay. Just get it to me when you get it.
And there may be another one too, where we have this access problem now for lighting of the greens, or for our equipment, or for 4th of July, getting equipment or materials down on the front lawn area. And we may need to make some changes to have that more accessible. But we'll include those all together at the meeting. And Jana, the line striping is happening right now.
Good, I saw the lines in front of the post office.
Yes, they did the post office today also, yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the Stonehouse? Hearing none. Berkshire Heights, how'd the bid go?
Came in under bid, hold on, let me show
Like
this down.
$22,000.
Yeah, so between, we have 250,000 in grant funding, which also requires a 20% match. And I gotta look at this one here.
That's the water bid.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong one. This one? Yeah. Low bid with the alternates came in at 237.
Who is it?
Somebody we had never heard
JNS
of.
Paving and Excavating Corp.
Uh,
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I'm
Gordon
looking at
Baber.
Gordon Baber.
which is one that we've never heard of, but I assume Nick, you checked
Yeah, I
references?
spoke with a lot of their references and everyone had good stuff to say about them.
Okay.
Do we have all the playground equipment that we want in this bid?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. That's part of what took so long to get this out to bid. We were originally gonna purchase through CoStarz, but for grant funding, you have to publicly bid it, so.
Okay. So we need a motion to approve recommending council awarding the project to, I forgot the name already.
Gordon H. Baver Incorporated.
Gordon H. Baver Incorporated. I'll go ahead and make that recommendation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Parkland study?
Biggest update on this is since the last meeting, I found out that we received $10,000 from the Berks County Planning Commission to do another phase of what we're gonna do with the Rotary funding. That money requires no match, and even better yet, we can use it as match funding towards another grant application that was submitted last week through the School Highlands mini grant program, which would be solely for signage. I'd like to give kudos to our Public Works Department in that Mike Lecce and Clancy Crayley, am I saying that right? Which are the lead mechanic and the mechanic working with the lead, looked at the sign design that Randy helped me work on, pick out, and we can fabricate those signs in-house. So there's probably gonna be substantial cost savings to that aspect of this too. So the really good news is we went into 25 budgeting 20,000 of our own money to start, and we've already doubled that with more to come.
Can they print the,
We'd have to get the vinyl graphic printed through a
Right.
sign company, but in terms of actual fabrication of
Of the
the sign, I mean, they can powder coat it in-house, and Clancy said that they could even do that like fancy cutout of the leaf, whatever we would want, something like that, they could do that at the top too. So,
Sweet.
yeah, that was exciting.
Okay. I think we already got a letter rule update.
Correct?
Facilities update.
Greg, do you have anything?
No, nothing for this one.
Yeah, that's just gonna stay as a stand,
No, I
standing
get it.
item, yeah.
Is there any, so no issues that we know of?
Can I ask a question? I'm brain a little slow, so I'm going back to Berkshire Heights Playground. Was there any discussion with all of the teams and around Wyomissing as to how they might use the facilities at Berkshire Heights and what they need as opposed to what we need for Berkshire Heights?
So there wasn't discussion as to what they need, there was discussion with them as to scheduling of their teams on the field and not interjecting, but keep in mind, this is a grant application we submitted for at this point now 4 years ago that was very specific to playground
It was
equipment.
specific to the playground equipment, that
Yeah, I knew that.
the
I
younger
just didn't
kids use,
know.
but that
There's
kids
a lot
are,
of ground there.
brothers and sisters are playing baseball, softball.
We've been talking about this, Matt Hoffman started this 8 years ago, so this has been ongoing conversation with people as to what we need, Ron,
Well, I
for
was
3
looking
years.
at the items that, or whatever his name was doing, and I didn't see anything that jumped out at me, like lacrosse, baseball, basketball, things like that. I don't see any equipment there.
Well, the playground equipment is right there, furnish and install playground equipment, but again, the grant request that we were approved for was very specific to replacement of playground equipment and installation of an ADA path and parking spaces.
All right, so the answer is no.
Correct.
Thanks.
Okay. Facilities update, that's the last thing on the agenda, right?
Yeah, so I need an executive session of council quickly at the end of this.
Okay, so meeting is adjourned.
Boy Scouts need to come to